points as we go through. So the whole idea is to give you a very good understanding of what leverages are, how they work for you in negotiation, and why you need to switch the way you hunt for investors or collaborators or partners, and why you should use leverages to qualify them and then also to pitch to them. So our last webinar was on trade sale. Today is all about leverages. And at the end of this presentation, you'll understand why we don't hunt for wealthy investors, what leverages are in terms of capital raising, because that's where we discovered it. I found this in 2014, and I used it as part of the Cornerstone Investor model, but it has wide ranging. We now use it for all 4 significant cash generating transactions in IP commercialization in early stage. So, and we're going to show you how something that costs you nothing can make a big difference in the negotiations, and how we can get projects funded in 4 pitches or less using this technique. And finally, I'm going to then round it all up with how we can make it work for you. So if you're ready for that, I'm going to jump straight into it. So the 7 points we're going to cover today is, firstly, IP leverages and why we use them, and how they, once you understand what they are, it'll be pretty easy to, I'm going to give you examples for each one as well. Beyond that, we're going to show you how they help to secure agreements for you. So you can use leverages to get people making decisions rather than holding back, because we de-risk projects. Then we're going to show you how we target prospects using our 10-4-1 process. It's a shifting funnel process to qualify prospective investors. And I'm orientating this around investment today, but it can be all of our significant cash generating transactions. So you can stack these leverages once you've got them, and you've layered them in terms of dollars. You then stack them up to show that the risk that people are putting for investing, let's say $500,000, which is our average that we do, then we can take that risk down to nothing, so that people have a no-brainer decision to make. Now, we use this across funding, licensing, distribution, and trade sale. It doesn't have to be just used for funding, although that's how we discovered it, as I mentioned. And I'll be showing you how to use leverage how we use it in our 12-point pitch, and our members in our academy use it constantly to get not just a 12-point pitch for funding, but 12-point pitch for distribution, licensing, and trade sales, whatever else they need. Sometimes it's franchising, everything else. So, and as we go, we're going to show you how to apply this to your project once you've got an understanding of it. So at the end of this, I'm going to give you an opportunity to, if you book a call with me, you get a free ebook. And if you join our program, you'll get a hard copy book as well. And it doesn't have to be the same one. You can pick from any of my books. So let's keep going. Now that you understand what we're going to cover today, don't want to talk too much about me. I started in this industry in 1983. My first project was the telephone accounting system. So if you were in the 80s and you somewhere in the world traveled and stopped at a hotel and you made phone calls, the software that generated the reports for those phone calls and costed it out to you was done by us. Now, we licensed that, or first off, we sold it alongside the PBX, the branch exchanges that all the major manufacturers made, and they sold our software to their end customers. But later on, they took it on themselves and incorporated it. And then we trade sold it in 1987 to one of the major Japanese companies, and they used it for themselves and stopped selling it to others. So it was quite a good program. That was my first invention. My latest invention is the Cornerstone Investor model from 2014, 2015, and I'm going to show you a lot of that today. We used it in the trades for funding, but of course it's used for everything now. So now I want to go through what IP leverages really are for you, so you'll get a full understanding. So if I just break it down to very small pieces to understand, an IP leverage is a benefit to others that costs you nothing. So there's some things you can give away that have no value to you, but make a significant value to others. And if we can stack that value and costed out for that particular investor, then when we pitch to them, we can show them how the money we're asking for can be offset by this risk. Now, most competitors, when they're pitching for money in particular, are offering return on investment. If you focus on return on investment and you've got no track record and you've got no sales history, you're gone. There's no way you can prove anything. Everything is speculation, and that's why you keep crashing out if that's what you use. Each leverage can have a different impact for each of the people you put it on. And what we do with our 10-4-1 is we actually qualify the people down to a point where we get to the one, and we only do one pitch at a time, and we thoroughly go through that and cost up all the leverages, so then we know that we can offset all of the commercial risk for that particular applicant. Now, the benefit for the industry players is much greater than somebody who's a high net worth individual. If you are going out looking for high net worth individuals to invest in your project, those benefits might be worth nothing or very little to them. But if you're picking someone from the industry or the market, it changes everything. And that's what we're going to be focusing on. We generally look for people in the industry or the market with a track record, and most important, they have a sales channel. Now, we can capture and offer these benefits. They cost you nothing when you offer them to them, but we can use them to offset some of the investment risk that these people would have. And that's an important aspect for you, because if they're coming in with $500,000 to fund your project to cash flow positive, we don't try and fund a project to profit. That's a waste of time. That's for scaling. We want to get you to pre-scale. So you're making a number of significant cash generating transactions and showing a high growth trajectory. If you can do that, everything in your game changes. And we're going to show you how we build that. And finally, they can be used in all significant transactions that you use. And for us, the process makes selecting the target partners critical, because those target partners now have value in the IP leverages, whereas anyone else probably doesn't see any value in it. So in terms of summing it up, I can tell you that benefits can deliver a financial or competitive rewards to other party, which will cost the inventor nothing. Sometimes it costs you a little bit. Most times it actually has no commercial value, but to them it has a significant value, and that makes the big difference. Okay, so now I want to go through the top 14 leverages that I use, and we measure these across just about every project that comes into our program. So if you brought a project in and you said, okay, I want to now fund this, I'm looking for, some people come in and ask for $15, $20 million to get to profit, and I suggest that they look at $500,000 to get to cash flow positive and show that the project can run itself. If it can't, and sometimes I've got one at the moment in the UK, which is its seed capital at this early stage is actually £2 million, which is about $3 million US. So in cases of that, it makes it still easy, because we know what it is to get to cash flow positive. But if I run through some of the leverages that we use on just about every project, some of them have no value, others have significant value. And what you want to do is pull them up to a point where you can cover off that $500,000 or £2 million, whatever it is that you're going to get from investors. So first things first, if they've got the existing channel that can take this product, all you're doing is feeding your new product into their existing channel. So what happens is, if they've got a different model product and it doesn't have the features yours have, or it complements your product, then all you're doing is increasing the average sale value. Now, what that means is, to give you an example, if I brought along I make fries and you have a drive-through burger place, and I say to you, why don't you sell fries with every burger that comes in? It costs you nothing for your girl on the drive-through to say, would you like fries with that? Would you like to upsize that? Whatever she's going to do. Usually she asks three things. Would you like fries with that? Would you like that in a meal? Would you like to upsize that? And then those three things will sell extra, but cost you nothing, other than this girl to spend probably 5 seconds to ask per patient, a person, a prospect, but they don't cost you money. And that's the important thing. It's worth a lot of money to you, but it doesn't cost you money. It doesn't cost me money to do that. Also, access to new markets with existing products. It could be that, and I'm going to use an example, if I'm pitching to you, it could be that you have already established markets with existing products, and you now want to get your existing products into new markets. And my product might help you break through on those into those markets. So if that's going to be the entry point for you to get into that and then start selling your existing products, well and good. It means that I could save you a lot of money in marketing simply by having the right product to tap those people and get them started. So then you've got a sales track record with them. It's a whole lot easier to sell to people who know you. Next, access to skilled personnel both ways. And this does work both ways. It could be that you've got a highly skilled team working on your project, and you're able to transfer that into the company that is going to acquire the project, and your team can actually work on their products as well, and vice versa. So it could be they have a full skill set as well, and they can help you accelerate your project. And that can be very helpful if something's happened to your team, or your team members are overwhelmed at the moment because you've got too much on. Suddenly you can get supplemented very quickly. There's no ramping up, there's no hiring intervals. Everything is all done. You just walk in and they kickstart the people and off they go. You've also got the opportunity for limited exclusivity. And what that means, a limited exclusivity can be three different things. It can mean a geographic exclusivity. So I'm going to give you access to your area, to your city, to your state, to your country, exclusive for a period. That's the first one, geographic. The next one is demographic. So I might say, I'm going to give you exclusivity for cars, but not for buses, trucks, boats, or caravans, or camper vans, or aircraft. And my product can go across all of those. Therefore, you've got a limited exclusivity in which to build up a reputation with this product and capture a market and then go from there. And that can be very, very significant in terms of income for the prospective investor. Now, it could be also for time. You might say, we're going to say, for the first 6 months of this, while we're doing finishing or closing out our R&D, we're going to call this limited exclusivity period an R&D period, and therefore no one else can buy the product, but you can. You can flood your market, which is a great way to get you ahead of the game if you're ready for it. And as an investor, you should be, because you should have a mature company in an industry that's either growing or mature, and we've selected you because you're already well established in that industry. You might want to white label the product, gives you instant acceptance. If I'm making a widget for automobile or automotive industry, you might take it, rebadge it as your own, and put it into your current range of products. And then when I release this one, I release it as called something else. It's a different color, different packaging. It looks fairly similar because you've changed only a few things on it, but you've white labeled it. You're selling it as your own, and you've taken a license from yourself at our joint venture. If you might have bought 20% of the project, in which case you're paying a license fee to the joint venture and you're getting a discount on that yourself. But you're also getting a jump on others. You might also be looking at recovering lost sales. I'm going to give you an opportunity to see recovering lost sales in one of our demonstrations we'll do later on in this. And that's within your niche. You may have lost some sales, and those sales, you lost them because you're too expensive, and this product's going to make you more cheaper. But the people who turned you down didn't necessarily go somewhere else. Sometimes they just walk away and think, oh, it's too hard, or I'll save up. And if you're able to go back to them and say, hey, I'm now cheaper because I've got this new technology, it changes the game. You might also find that it gives you a competitive advantage over your other players, your competitors in the industry as it is now. And that could mean that you get a competitive edge, you make sales, you could be cheaper, you could be more effective, and you could offer a greater range of options for people. So if I now jump to another lot of leverages, you also can get access to prime or government contracts. Now, if you're, for instance, in defence or aerospace or in government contracting, in training or something like that, you may require to be a prime contractor or to be a larger registered subcontractor. And if you haven't got that yet, partnering up with somebody who can offer that immediately, all they have to do is make sure your product is quality assurance approved, quality audited, and then it probably needs to have all the manuals and everything else done. You drop it straight in, it's approved, and they can start selling it immediately to government, which could take you 2 years. So that's good for you, it's good for them. And it costs you nothing to do that. Again, it's a leverage. You could increase their production throughput. Here I have an example, which I'll use in our demonstration later on. And that was where we walked into a company that was doing about 60, they estimated between 60 and 65% of their throughput. And if they incorporated our project unit, we could pretty much run them at about 90%. Now that meant they don't have to do any more capital expenditure. They don't have to, in some cases, they didn't have to increase staff. But when they did increase staff, and it could be that they put a whole new shift on, but they've got a lot more throughput. And so that's a big difference for everybody. It means that a greater utilisation of all their equipment means very little in terms of capital expenditure to get started. You could also tap into their existing ISO, might have ISO 9000 in their systems, in which case if you can get quality assurance straight away, simply by incorporating it, and they audit you within as a department and then put it in, everybody's happy. You're also able to then sell to government, defence, aerospace, all these types of organisations that you may need to tap into if that's your business. You also might then be able to, instead of asking for $500,000 to set up administration, sales, full production, or any other operations, you could now say, no, we're just going to, if you can put us in a corner of your factory and we'll pay you rent, but instead of giving you cash that you've given to us, we'll just offset it. And we also offset the admin, sales, operations, and the standards requirements. Then guess what? They haven't put out cash for that. So it has a cost, but it doesn't have a significant cost like it usually does. And I'll show you in a sample. There could also be matching grant funds available. If they put in 500,000, you can you've already lined up a grant application that says matching funds is dollar for dollar. And so you can show to someone, if you put in 500,000, we're going to be able to make that $1 million. So we're already ahead of the game for everybody. And using the non-cash contributions which are above, people can walk in with very little cash. We also can point out to them they can do a collaborative research partnership. That works very similar with grants, but they're mutually exclusive. If I explain collaborative research partnerships, it depends on your jurisdiction. I'm not going to give this, please don't take this as legal or accounting advice. It's not. I'm just going to spell it out for you to go to your accountants and talk to them about this. But if you have a project that needs money spent, instead of asking for someone to give you $100,000 to go and finish the research or development, you might actually say, why don't you pay the bills as and when they for you, and then claim that R&D tax concession as a collaborative research partner. Now, in some jurisdictions, you get 50 cents in the dollar as a tax deduction, and you can pretty much claim it straight away. So you don't have to wait to the end of the financial year to do that. Others, I think Australia is 43 cents in the dollar, but Canada, US, I think is 50 cents in the dollar. So it's well worth looking at that and making that party a collaborative research partnership. From there, you can get ready access to regulatory testing. I've had a project quite recently, like in the last 2 weeks, where we've been able to, the company that we're targeting had all the engineers on board that they could do the regulatory testing and get it approved. So it meant that instead of having a 4-month delay trying to get this product lined up, queued for testing, and then testing it, and then waiting for reports, they could actually just slide it through. And the cost went from something like $110,000 down to $12,000. So because it was just hours. So that makes a big difference, and no waiting, which was the most important thing for that project. You could have also, and I've just done this one, well, actually the deal happens, I think, Friday in the UK, where we're talking to a prospective investor, and the thing that swung him wasn't anything about return on investment. It was he gets the opportunity to put his name to co-brand on the patent's application because it's very early. So as a result of that, he can put his name on that. When they print the patent out, then he gets his name, he gets an extra sheet with his name on it, and he can put it on his wall. That sort of thing is sometimes worth far more than the return on investment, but it's something that doesn't cost you money. I should point out that when we do co-branding on patent applications, they waive the rights, any rights they have to the patent. So they're waiving any commercial rights, they're just holding their title. And that works out fine for you. Okay, so now how do you use these to secure agreements? So that's fairly, you now understand what leverages are. Let's see how the leverages can be used for you so you can get somebody in terms of investment or distribution or licensing, etc. Firstly, it can reduce the risk for the decision maker. And sometimes there's 3 different levels of decision making within the party you've gone to: the project management team, the board of directors, and finally, if it's a public listed company, the auditors. They still need to approve that as well if it's an acquisition or it's an investment. So in a case like that, we have to show them how each party, how we're going to reduce their risk. And we do that using the leverages. They are different. It takes a little bit of work, but it's worth it because you don't have to do 300 presentations anymore. The less investment, if they're in the industry, because all of those, the more leverages that you present will stack up and cover off the investment amount. You don't stop at the 500,000 if that's what you're asking for. In fact, you can keep going and say, and I'll show you one today that was, I think it was a $1.6 million positive for this company to jump into. But the closer they are aligned to the industry or the market, the less investment in hard cash that they'll need. Now, non-cash offsets instead of cash, that's, again, alignment. It could be that they give you a corner of their factory. They may give you access to things like forklifts, gantry cranes, CNC presses, plasma cutters, laser cutters, welders, everything, all you need to build your little widgets, and you've got a corner to do it in. You've also got access to their sales teams, their admin, their quality assurance teams. Everything's all included. Well, that's a cash offset. And so they're going to find that they don't have to spend so much money doing that. Now, you could find that by doing this, you're tapping into their whole network, but also their sales team, and you're earning in hours, not months. They can blast out an email to all their existing customers and say, hey, we've got this new product. Would you like to have a look at it? I've had one that's done this to past customers and said, you bought our this model. How would you like to get this? It complements it well. And they gave them 60 days. And if you don't like it, send it back in 30 days. No questions asked. That more than covered the costs before they'd even made the decision. They'd done the deal in hours. They covered their costs in hours, not months. They can, in most cases, if they're the right party, they can tap existing customers for sales, as I've just mentioned. You can also offer limited territory exclusivity for them, so they can get started without any thought to others jumping in. And I like to call that a research and development exclusivity period. And you do limit it, but if they get the jump on their competitors, they get a good head start. That's a big advantage to anyone. They can also customize their pitch on the leverage value. So every pitch you do specifically for each party. So you've stacked the leverages for that party, and you may even change them on the different levels. And how do we know those levels? Because we've done our commercial modeling. We know exactly how the business works. But I'll talk more to that a little bit later. Now, can leverages work for you? Absolutely, they can. If you're at the moment focused on getting funding, distribution, licensing, franchising, doing an IPO, which is an initial public offer for a public listed on a stock exchange, or a reverse takeover, same thing for a stock exchange listing, or you're looking at a trade sale, you can use leverages to build your pitch for all of those. And they're all different, but they'll all stack up and cover the costs. For licensing, they still have to put R&D into test and measure before they start then their production, and you have to cover off that cost, so there's no risk. For distribution, they have to buy an inventory, they have to place an order, and they also have to do training for their network. So in a case like that, there's risk, and you have to offset that risk. So we cover it off in just about every aspect of it. Even in a trade sale, we'll show you how to offset that risk. So now, if we use, I talked about the commercial modeling, and the way we do that is we use our leverages. We build out, we know what the leverages are that are going to affect this industry or this market, and we then start hunting for the companies that we want to deal with. And we do a process called 10-4-1. First off, we're looking for the top 10 across all the different levels of the commercial model. The commercial model is something we've sat down to do. We take 4 hours to do a commercial model, and it starts with 244 questions. It blows out to about 500 data points on a mind map. The whole idea is to give you one glance, everything about that industry, all the risks, all the assets, all the paths to market, everything you know. But most importantly, it will show you who the big players are that you need to target and what levels at that, and how they interact with each other and how they can interact with you. So that gets you your top 10, and usually those top 10 are across different levels of the industry. So you're not too worried about just product manager. You're also looking at directors, you're looking at auditors, all of them. Then we use our leverages to sort that top 10, and you'll find that we try and get the top 4. The ideal 4 would be the ones that the leverages most affect. It might not be the people you know, but it will be the people who are affected most by the leverages positively. Now, it could be that you've included someone in there that you know personally, because even though the leverages aren't the best for them, it will still cover the 500,000 or whatever it is you're asking for. But most importantly, you know you're going to get through the front door. So you might say, well, okay, I'm going to cheat a bit here. And my top 4, I'm going to include this guy because I've already spoken to him about this product. Once you've got the 4, we start building the pitch, but we only build one pitch at a time. And the reason for that is because using leverages is hard work. You actually have to cost it out, and you have to get it right. You have to be able to project what that's going to be worth individually for that company across by looking at their markets and their industry and panning down what that could be worth if they decide to use this and take the project on. What is it going to be worth? What are those extras going to be worth to them? And then once you start to monetize those, you can stack them. Once we stack the leverage values, we're looking to make it up to the amount we're asking for if it's a funding pitch, but also to cover the costs if it's any other pitch. So once we've done that, we then build our 12-point pitch. And today, I've got a little treat for you. I'm going to walk you through what a 12-point pitch looks like without going through all the stages. I'm just going to give you an opportunity to understand what 12 points on that pitch will give you. If I have time, I hope I do. So once we've created the 12-point pitch, we're going to then, before we go out to anybody, we build our due diligence file. Part of our commercial modeling is to build a due diligence file, and we give you a full due diligence checklist. And we do this manually. We don't do it onto a thumb drive because you have to dumb all of this down to the lowest common denominator, and you've got to accept that people on boards of directors have grey hair, and most of them, some of them do understand how to access thumb drive, but there are still people out there that don't. So we always do old school. We actually build our due diligence file in a concertina file, and we replicate it. We never put originals in there, but we put everything ready. And once at the end of the pitch, we're setting the timeline. Setting the timeline is where we ask them, we tell them, look, the last slide on our 12-point pitch is actually where to from here. And we set what's going to happen in the next week, the next 2 weeks, the next 3 weeks, the next 4 weeks. And one of those is from now, we're going to slide the due diligence file across the table. We're going to ask them to review this in the next few days and come back to us with questions. And then in a week's time, we're going to meet again and answer those questions formally. We're also going to provide you in the next day or so, based on the conversation we're having in the pitch. We're going to give you what we see as elements to an agreement. We never just say, here's our copy of our agreement, sign here. What we say is, we've got elements of an agreement we'd like to put to you, and we'd like to get your feedback on that so you can give us your elements of an agreement. Now, if that were the case, then what happens is you don't have or when we have to send that off to legal because it's an agreement. Instead, you're getting contribution from them. They're looking at what you've got as elements, and you're going to include those as features in an agreement, but not necessarily hard decisions yet. So they have a chance to negotiate that. So that way it takes all the pressure off them, and you can get that done within a week instead of 4 months in legal before they come back to you. And you're then presenting to a legal department who know nothing about your project, which you don't want to do. So setting a timeline means you'll get a decision in 4 weeks instead of 6 months, and that can happen with due diligence. Okay, so what I promised to show you what pitching looks like with using leverages. So that we do a 12-point pitch, and this isn't exactly the 12 points, but I'm showing you how we step through. First off, we have to say, this is our project. This is what we're here for. And once we've done that, we say, here's the commercial model we use to understand your industry, your market, and how our project interacts with each level of the commercial model. Once we've done that, we then talk about two parts, which is 2 different slides. Here's the problem in the industry, and here's our solution to how we solve that problem for them. And we go deep into this problem. You can appreciate part of those 244 questions starts out with things like, who has the problem? Who in the industry makes it, in the companies in that industry have the problem? Who in the companies make the decision that they have a problem and need to solve it? Where do they go to solve it? That tells you how they look for a solution. That gives you your distribution, your current distribution model as it is. You then say, how much do they pay? How much do the competitors sell to them to? What are the competitors' average margins? What if these people decide to to build, not buy? What if these people, will they stop buying what they're buying at the moment and switch to you? Will these people look for an outside solution at all? Are they prepared to wear the problem? And how much does it cost them to live with the problem? All of that has to be answered well before to build your commercial model. So when we present the problem and the solution, we know what it is. Once we've done that, we then have to say, here's what we want from you. The proposal is in these parts. We want an investment of this much. Let's call it, I'll show you one later on, but we'll work through it. Let's call it 500,000. Here's the amount of that is non-cash contribution because we've calculated it. Here's the value of the leverages that we've stacked up, and you can get these. Here's the expected sales opportunity for you if you take us on, and here's the actual cash spent, and now we can spread it over the months of the finalisation of the development and market approach, and therefore we don't want $500,000 on day one. We want whatever it is. It might be $120,000 a month for 3 months, and then the rest on month 5. But if you stagger it out, you're mitigating a lot of risk as well. So we do try and spread that out, stagger it. Finally, we then go through their external risks as we see them, because we're saying to them, I'm getting into your industry, so therefore I need to show you that I know what the risks are. And if I can show you that I understand the risk, and we have to be very careful here because these people already understand what the risks are. They already know because they're in that industry or that market. And if we get this wrong, they discount everything we've said. So we must be very accurate on that. And then once we've done all of that, our where to from here slide, here's what's going to happen in the next 4 weeks. Now, if I want to show you just on the part 4, the ABCDE, to give you an understanding of this, I want to show you how I use the funding with presenting those leverages and non-cash items. So I use a process called source and allocation of funds. Now, for those of you with grey hair, you'll know what a statement of source and allocation of funds looks like. It's pretty much a profit and loss, but it's the difference is I can bring in investment funds, I can bring in grant funds, I can bring in any other non-cash items to the bottom line. So, and in a case like this, I'm just presenting the funds as a flow. So it's not quite a P&L, but it does work for this application. So I'll just walk you very quickly through. This is one I did, and I presented this back in December in our funding one. I think it was December or November. which was on sheds. This guy had a method of building sheds, which meant that nobody had to pay for the assembly of the shed. You could buy the shed flat pack, and one person could build a shed which could be 20 metres by 50 metres. It didn't matter. Whatever the size, you could build it with one person. And he had a way of doing that by building the roof on the ground and then winching it up the poles, because he provided winches and pulleys system. Once the roof was finished, including all the lighting and solar panels, whatever you put on your roof, you walked around the entire infrastructure, winching it up 3 inches at a time on every pole. And at the end of it, you took off the pulley, you put the bolts through, you took off the pulleys and the winches, and you sent them back to the supplier. And you got a rebate based on the condition they provided to you, provided they came back in the right condition. So what it meant was a $100,000 shed might cost $60,000 extra to install. Not anymore. He could do it in about $4,000. So what it meant was a big difference for that company. The first company we pitched to actually was pretty excited about this. This was in the other side of Australia from where I am. They flew me over to do the presentation. And when I got there, I put them to work. The guy we pitched to was a fairly senior guy that owned this business. It was a fairly large business. And he had 3 senior managers who were all under the age of 30. They were not green. They were very skilled. They were also well educated, but he had delegated very well. And so what I did, I gave these guys an opportunity to prepare a task for when I went in there to talk to them. And the task I said was, go back through your books and look for the last 6 months at sales you lost that those people didn't buy from others. And in fact, they went back and did 12 months, which changed the dynamic, but it didn't matter. So I then used those figures, plugged them into the statement of source and allocation of funds as a 1-pager on my presentation, and I was able to say the following. I want $500,000 to get this going. Now, there's a lot of non-cash components because we can operate this in the corner of your factory, and we can use your admin, your sales team, your distribution channels, everything, all of your equipment, plant, it's all there. So therefore, there's a cost involved, but it's not an outright cash cost, it's an offset. And that offset totals $200,000 of the $500,000. Now, the total cash requirement then now from $500,000 in terms of risk is now $300,000. But because I know that I've already applied for a grant on this, that the grant value is going to be about, I think a value that was going to be about $200,000, $220,000, but this would be available to them as a tax concession for $120,000 as a collaborative research partner. And a lot of this cost were going to be able to be deducted off that. So as a result, they were getting ready to go. They had costed it out. I showed them what their investment risk now is, down to $180,000. But when we looked at their net earnings, and we talked about the net earnings, not just the sales amount, but the net earnings. What was your profit in the last 6 months? In the case like this, it was actually 12 months. It was 2.8 million. So their total risk reward value for $500,000 investment was a positive $2.6 million to do this deal. So you can see that that becomes a no-brainer for that company to make a decision. Now, we then posed the question without putting a value on it. I actually put the question marks in there, and that was, what would this be worth to you that you can sell against your competitors in the future, and you can go beyond the 200-kilometre limit that you have, because this entire industry considers that they have to sell, that the reason why they have so many franchises and so many outlets in their franchises is because they can't go beyond about 150 kilometres, because they have to have crews. Those crews have to take out scissor lifts, mobile cranes, scaffolding, concreting. All of that has to show up on site on a certain day with a crew, and it might be 6 to 10 guys to do this job for 3 days and then move to the next place. All of that has to be mobile. You can't go 800 miles to do this. You have to limit yourself to about 100 miles. So in doing that, we said, if we took away that limitation, because now you don't have to be there, and we targeted just farmers, we said farmers are people who don't want to pay for installation. They're prepared to do the work themselves. I don't know if you had too much to do with farmers, but if you have seen, most farmers in their 60s or above have a limp. And the reason why is because they have a lot of accidents, because they work very hard and they take a lot of risks, but they want to do it themselves, and that's why they do that. So in a case like this, where we can offer them, do it yourself, doesn't matter how big the shed is, you can do it yourself. You just have to buy the shed, and it's flat pack delivered to you with your instructions. It's not as bad as IKEA, but you can get it done pretty quickly. And there's also videos to show you how to do it. So guess what happens? Now we can expand out their thinking. These guys are selling from one territory. They've got branches and resellers in other territories. And suddenly they become nationwide. So what we offered them was an opportunity to go nationwide. But what we wanted to do was to say to them, you can take this, go nationwide, but because you're actually only selling locally, when we give you, and we offer them 50% of this license, the master license for the Australian distribution, but in order to do that, they couldn't go internationally. So we were able to sell that cheaply in order to fund the international stuff. So that's how the model worked for them, using our 12-point pitch, and then this monetized our leverages. So how does that work in terms of a value pitch versus our ROI pitch? Well, I just want to do a very quick summation for how you probably have been pitching all along and how we consider that you should be pitching in the future. Firstly, you generally would say, my project makes money or can save money. I want you to invest in our new invention to help. You'll make more money doing it. We have a patent. You can't do this without the patent, so we block you otherwise. So here's an opportunity to be legal. The market, or if we see it as worth billions of dollars, we're just aiming for 1%, and therefore this is what it's worth. If you use that logic, you've shot yourself in the foot. It's gone. You can't catch up. What you say then is, give me $5 million, I'll get you $10 million in 5 years. So what you're saying is, get me to profit, but also I'll give you a return on that, which I can't guarantee because I can't actually show you any profit at the moment because I don't have any. So what we would rather see is, get me to 500,000 and I'll earn from there to get to 5 million. But in terms of 10 million in profit, you're part of this project, so don't worry about it. Here's my term sheet. That's something that a lot of people already have written up. Here's my NDA. I'm doing this without an NDA, which is a big mistake, but I'm presenting this without an NDA. But if you want to see any further, I'm prepared to take you behind the curtain today, but you have to sign my NDA. And I can tell you how hard it is to get to sign a large company's, get a large company to sign your NDA. And I'll show you why at the end of this, if we have time. Some funds will need to pay back my loans. I've got lots of loans out there. So some of the funds that I'm bringing in, yes, I'm going to have to put it aside and pay back loans. Any investor doesn't want to do that. Those loans are your contribution to the project to date, and that's your risk. So you should pay them back out of the earnings that are going to go forward if this project is going to earn money. And finally, lots of urgency. People are looking at this. You need to get on board now. Don't waste your time. Otherwise, I'll go to the next one. And if you do that, people will say, I'm going to take 3 to 6 months to do this. So I'm going to bow out because it looks like it's too hard. I'm not going to invest the time in it if you're going to go to someone else. So what happens? You end up losing the whole thing. Here's how we pitch this. Firstly, we've done our research. We know that they've got a product that complements this, and they've got a channel already set up. So when we walk in, we'll talk to them about, we know you've got this X2000. The reason why I pick X2000 as a model is because if you've got grey hair and you were around in the 90s, and in the 90s, everybody talked about a model, had a model in their emerging model, which they called their 2000 for some reason. So your X2000, if you buy this product, we think you can sell it to the same people that bought the X2000, and average sale value will increase going forward, but also retrospectively, you go backwards and churn that into sales. Every sale you make will increase your average sale value going forward. So instead of selling a $100,000 product. Now you'll sell 140,000 because this product can be added to it. And it's just a matter of fries and burgers. You're not spending any more money looking for new clients. This will give you the same clients. No marketing costs, no lag time. Lag time is important because they don't have to build a new product. They don't have to approve the product. They don't have to get it into the market and start testing it. They can just drop this straight in and start selling. So lag time can save them 2 years if they take a license or they do this as a partnership. Here is our almost cashless proposal. So we do want $500,000 to get this going, but we only need $130,000 in cash. We have an offset for all the other contributions that you have, and we'll show you how that works. Here's your other leverages, and here's the risks that we see that you've got, and here's how our leverages offset those risks for you. And here's how we're going to take this from here. This is what can happen. If you like what you see, we can, from the next 5 minutes, we'll slide you across the due diligence file. We'll answer any questions you have, and the next week, the next 2 weeks, the next 3 weeks, the next 4 weeks, we have a plan, and we'll stick to that plan. So in 4 weeks' time, we can sit down and sign an agreement if you're okay with that. So that gets you the result you want. And they can get that result in 12 points in a pitch in 30 minutes, not the other one, which is a generic pitch. And it can take, I've seen pitches, I've been involved in pitches more than 2 hours. I tell you, that's why most venture capital analysts have eyeballs tattooed on the eyelids, because when they close their eyes and sleep, you think they're still awake. There's a reason why these guys can sleep with their eyes open. And that's because they have to concentrate on these boring stuff. And what we do is we keep the action going, we give it all to them, and we set the agenda. It's not finished, but here's how we go forward. And so that means you'll get a result. Generally, you'll get a yes or no on the spot. And in our cases, we get a positive response in 6 pitches, or 4 pitches or less. Okay, so how do we do that? I'm going to just do a very quick shameless pitch, not the one I normally do. I'm going to make it real quick here. This is the quickest and easiest way to cash flow.